This is a 1938 Chev truck, and I am going to attempt with a capital A to chop the roof 6 inches. Stick around and see if I can pull this off. So this will be my first attempt at doing a roof chop, and it won't be the easiest. As you can see, we got nothing that's straight. Everything's curved and everything's different thicknesses. So let's see if we can achieve anything at all. Before we get too excited on chopping it, let's go and have a look at where this came from. that you've seen where it come from, which was quite a story in itself, wasn't it? Now you can have a look at what I'm going to put it on. So this here is a 1933 Chevy chassis that I have fully boxed in, full length boxed in. As you can see, we got all the space frame on the inside, out of tube. These will come off. This was going to run, or was mocked up for a 32 Ford pickup fiberglass, but I don't like the fiberglass, so I got rid of it. So my decision is to run that 38 Chevy cab on this 33 Chevy chassis with my brand new, fully built, in-house by myself, 283 Chevy engine. At the moment, it's coupled up to a 3-speed manual. Whether that stays or not at this stage, it will. We've made this seat ourselves out of a old couch. Oh yeah, and that is quality, and we have a ton more of this leather. So that is the plan of that seat, will be incorporated into it. And in the back, we are running Jag coilovers out of a Jaguar. As you can see our panhard bar, we're running the 4-link system, and that is a diff housing out of a Mitsubishi L300 Express van. The reason being that a lot of people run them is due to they have LSD diff centers, they're quite strong, and they are very high gear ratioed. You can get multiple diff centers. This is running a Holden, for you Americans, which is very similar to some of your Chev front end. So this is a Holden HT front end setup that is in it. So that's what we're going, that's what the plan is, to put our 38 cab onto this. So have a little look-ski at it. So that is our plan. So let's stop talking and let's start cutting some stuff up. So this is what I have come up with so far. At the moment these are marked as a 4-inch chop. So the top of this piece of tape to the bottom of this piece of tape is 4 inches. Now of course they're a little bit rough at the moment. We will go through and measure these perfectly to make sure they are perfect. But for argument's sake here they're 4 inches apart. So what we would do is theoretically chop the top of this line and the bottom of this line, come across to here, chop straight up to here, all the way up to there, right? So we'll just move around here so you can see better. So yes, from the back here, we would chop straight up here, and then we would chop that and that out. So we're chopping this little section here out. Okay, this is cut all the way down. So then this piece here is gone. This is cut. this piece here's gone. Theoretically then, the roof can drop down. This piece can come to here, get re-welded. This piece from here to here, re-welded. And this piece from here to here and gets re-welded along there. And then we just weld from here down. And we keep this intact. Okay? So that's where my head is at, is how we're going to chop the back section at the moment. But I'm just trying to decide whether we go for the 4-inch or whether we open it up to 5 to 6 inches. So if we went 6 inches, it would basically be a piece of tape on the top, piece of tape on the bottom, and we would be cutting that out. Okay, so picture that would be the window from there, that piece, would be window, and there to there. So it would be a pretty tiny rear window. Okay, if we want to take 6 inches out of the rear window. Now I wanted to take some out of the rear window because it will be too big if we do the chop. We want the window to be more in proportion, okay? Now if we were to only take the 4 inches out of the window and we want 6 inches out of here, then we would have to continue this line and we'd have to take 2 inches out of this section as well, okay? So that's our choices, is we run it like this, just do a 4-inch chop, we turn it into a 6-inch chop, but we take 6 inches out of the window as well, which may look a bit weird having that window that small, or we come all the way across. Now I do like the idea of doing it like this, where we go boom boom boom, and we don't have to, we've got to get the window out yet, but when we come to the front we're having that same issue with our pillar fat, skinny fat, okay? And then that does the same here. We've got issues on going this way as well. So we're going to have some fun on this pillar. Now what I don't want to do, and what most people normally do, is they will chop the roof straight across here. So you'll generally go like that and straight across, okay? Now I don't want to do that on this particular cab because we've got these 3 beautiful ribs. Now I could chop through them and make new ribs, but I don't want to do that, okay? I want to leave those ribs intact. I don't want to mess with them. So what I'm planning on doing is, this is measured basically as around a 6 there. That's about a 6 or maybe more. But if you were to look at, if we're just dropping the back straight down basically, and so now we drop the front straight down, this edge here, straight down, is now here. So that's how far we're going to be out of alignment at the front. So that's why I like, it's probably going to be 1 inch out. That's why you'd normally cut through there, bring the front forward, put an inch or so in there, okay? That's what most people do, but I don't want to add into that roof, okay? So what I'm planning on doing, I think, is cutting these pillars, cutting like a V in them, and maybe the same at the top, cutting a bit of a V in the top, and actually laying this down and bellowing that out a little bit. And so if we were to take this to here, what we're basically going to do is we're just going to slightly change the angle of this windscreen, which is very straight up and down. We're just going to slightly lay it back a little bit. So that's what I'm thinking of how I'm going to do it. So I've just got to decide whether I do 4 or 6. Now I may mark it all out at 4, chop it at 4, sit it on, see what I think. But honestly, if we take 4 inches out of the top, which is only about that much, I don't know if that's enough. But 6 inches is probably down to there. And like, so, you know, I'm thinking maybe we go in the middle and we pick 5 inches is where my sort of head is at. So there's just a little bit of a insight into how I'm thinking of doing it. So at this stage, the doors, like I said, the doors will just get lopped off. We'll take the frame, top frame, throw it over to the side, and we'll deal with the doors later, okay? We're mainly worried about the cab. So we just got to pick the right spot to lop the doors so that it doesn't give us any grief. And we're going to concentrate on lining the back of the cab up on this edge when we do the chop. The way I've designed that chop should be quite easy. We then smaller our window so it doesn't look stupid, because if we left it like that, that window would be as big, if not bigger, than the side and front window. So that wouldn't look right. And doing it like this, we keep this, we don't mess with any of that. we actually keep all this intact. So this is, I think, a good way of cutting the rear and lining the rear up. Like I said, we're just going to drop the rear down and we're just going to lay this back, because if you stand back here, that roof is very, very straight. So putting a slight little angle on that, that's all we'd be doing, is that will not look silly at all. That will look fine. Okay. Alrighty, so here we are. This is what we've done. We've locked the doors down pretty low. We'll just deal with that later. We're going to have to do some stuff in here with this. We're going to have to cut, shrink, cut bits of this out, all sorts of stuff to get it nice. So, in saying that, while I'm looking at this, I just want to check this measurement. We've got this correct. 125, yeah, we've got it right. Right, so we've got 5 inches here. We've decided on 5 inches. We've gone. That's what we're chopping out. So we've got this all marked. We ran a tape around pretty square, and then we measured each spot up. So this is parallel to this. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this tape is going like that, or it doesn't matter if it does a circle. Wiggly wine, it doesn't matter as long as this one matches it. Okay, so we've measured up. Right, so that's our front cuts. So what we'll do is we'll probably cut the top cut, pluck the roof off, then we'll come and cut the bottom cut. Now at the back here, we've turned it into 5 inches as well. This is all now perfectly measured. Okay, so we're going to the same principle. Here's our back window cut. So our back window will go from there. So we will end up with, I think it's about it's probably not as much on the bottom. It's probably a 50 to 60 on the bottom, and it's about 75 at the top. So we're looking at we're probably looking at a 125 window. So our window will be basically around that sort of size. So somewhere like there, that will be our window. So that's not bad. I can deal with that. It's not small where it will look weird. And looking at the back, if you look where our tape lines are, I'll get you in a bit closer. If you look where our tape lines are, we are actually on, the curve is finished, so we're actually on the straight, and the same, we're on the straight. So I think they look funny when they get cut up in there, and they're still in the radius of this. They're still in this radius, and then they get re-welded. So like when they cut them, you know, so there, it's still in the radius, and they cut it there, and the window's small. Well, it doesn't matter that the window looks small. It's that this here doesn't look right because it comes into a point. It comes out from a point. Okay, so at least we've got just onto the straight, so that should actually look like a decent little back window. Okay, it's all about aesthetics, remember? It's not just about making it look, you know, we've got to make it look cool, but it's got to look right. So that there should look actually right. Now, back onto the sides. So you explained before how we're doing this chop here. We're chopping along that black line. So we're chopping out there, so that little piece, and then we're chopping along that line. That piece there disappears. We chop along this line, we chop this out, then this whole section can slide down. Now when we come into the door, it got a little bit challenging because if you remember me saying I wanted to do our chop into this section here because it's fairly straight. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's fairly straight. It's probably 2 millimeters, so that's a 1/16. So it's 1/16 of an inch, probably angled. Okay. Which means we'll have a tiny little bit here where we'll have to do a little V-cut to bring this in, right? But if we come up here, like we're starting to get serious, okay? So if we were to do our roof chop up higher, look at what that gaps that we would have to be dealing with. Now, if we are lining up this edge, good, that gap is going to be out here, and this piece here is going to overhang like that. We're going to have way too much metal, and it's going to be a nightmare to bring it all back in and not have the roof look like this. Okay, so that's why I wanted to do the roof cut down there, because it's fairly straight, right? You can see we've got a tiny little bit, right? Now then it leads to the next problem is, well, this is where our striker is, and this is where our thick part of our jam is right where we wanted to do a cut. So what we've done here is we've done the similar thing to what we did on the back window. We are going to cut through here and through there. Same, we're going to cut through there and there. Then we're going to cut along that black line. Right, so we're just cutting that little section there out. And we're going to keep cutting along this black line, right along next to the locator. And then this is our section here that we are removing for our chop. So then what will happen is this piece can then slide down because this is gone. So this piece here slides down to there. This piece slides down to here. We're very similar in thickness here, so we can address that easily. And then what we do is we will weld this edge, which will be here. We'll just re-weld that vertically. Boom. This piece will be on there. We'll weld that. This piece will be there. We'll weld that. So we'll do the same sort of little staggered joint down on the door card, which should fix that, and then it makes it easy for our cut. Now, I've thought about this a little bit in the last, few hours and last night of where to cut it in the best spots. People, you could cut it wherever you want. You could cut it here if you wanted. Okay, you could cut your 5 inches out of there. But what I'm getting at is, you then start dealing with issues. As you can see, if we were to cut that, look at that gap from there to there, because you want this edge to marry up to this edge. So if you take 5 inches out on that edge, you've got over ½ an inch up the top here that this piece here is going to sit out there. So then to line that up, that means that this metal here is going to be sticking out way out there. Okay, that means the back of the cab's going to be like that. Then you've got to cut and shrink all that back in, dolly it, welds, all these vertical welds where you've cut all these little triangles out to shrink all this metal back in. You'll never get it to flow as nice. Now, as it is, we're probably going to have those little V-cuts in it. It's part and parcel of it, but you want to eliminate them as much as possible. Okay, so you really got to think, to do a nice job, you've really got to think about where to cut. Now back to the front. Like I've said, normally you would just cut through there, and then this, you just bring this whole cab, this half of the roof forward a little bit, and drop it on, and you've still got your slightly difference in thicknesses. Now I've gone through and picked as best as I could to get these fairly even. We are probably going to have to do a little slit vertically up there and shrink these in a bit to get this a little bit more rounded to match the top there. See if you can see the top's a bit flatter. This is a bit more sharper bend, so we're probably going to have to do a cut a little V and knock them in for that, but that's not a real biggie. But if you, so normally you'd cut that through. I don't want to cut through there, so you know, like I've said, if we were to bring this, we're going to be bringing this down, straight down. So that's how much we're going to be sitting back. Okay, so that's why you cut through the roof, bring the roof forward, tack it on, and then put a piece through the middle, right? But with this one, like I've said, we're just going to lay, because this, look how straight, you can see how straight that windscreen is. I don't think it's going to affect us at all, having that slightly laid, but it's not like we're laying it back like this. We're just laying it back sort of like that at the most. So I don't even reckon anyone would even pick it. And then we keep those beautiful ribs all intact. All right, now the way I've worked it is inside we will cut those supports, top and bottom. We'll cut them out for now, and get them out of the way. And this one here is, there's probably, this cut is in with this, but it's not actually joined. Okay, so yeah, we'll cut that out, and we will then chop them shorter later. Probably have to chop 5 inches out of them. We'll weld them back in at the end. So a lot of dribbling there, but I'm just trying to explain exactly how I'm cutting it and how I've come to cut it like that. Okay, so there is a thought process in doing these. Rider Rooney. So we are back. We had a change of plans, as you would have seen. So we did the chop and we dropped the back down nice like we were planning, and that's going to work. Okay, then we came to the front, and the front of this was right on the back of that, and to me the angle was not going to be any good. I didn't like the angle, so I decided to lop it through. So we went through here, across, and then cut through like that. That way these sort of can support each other a bit, and it's not just a straight through cut. You've got a bit of extra, it makes it stronger. Anyway. So the front is just sort of rough clamped. It may need a cut through there, because it's actually the top, I think, is slightly wider than the base, but we get it close with the clamping, so I may be able to pull it off. But I think we nailed the amount of cut. Now if we come around to the back, so yeah, there's our little cut we did, right. So the cut worked a treat. I think 5 inches was perfect. The back window is pretty much, looks wicked, I think. And the bottom of all the windows, it's still all at the original height. So it's not like you are now looking through here seeing, like, you know, you're not looking through here seeing the top of the rear window or anything. You're looking through this rear window exactly like you would have, so you're seeing a little bit of the dash from this height. You know, does that make sense? You're not in there seeing the roof, you know. So all of the windows have come down together. So I think in the word I'm looking for is, it looks correct. That's not the word I'm looking for, but the word is I can't even think of the word. Anyway, it will pop to me. I'll probably write it on the screen because it will come up. So anyway, I'm pretty happy. So we've tacked the rear window. So as you can see, we had to do a little bit of dolly work to get this shape here to follow this. So we got a little step. Now if you can see, this is wider, so, and it's on both sides, so it's nothing we've done wrong, but that's easily done. What we've done then is, so we've got them tacked there. We've come around to this. We've been working on this side a little bit. It's a little bit rough looking, but it's because we've got to go through. We've got lead all through here. We've got to gouge out all up to there's all lead, and we need to go and wire brush everything, yes, to get nice tacks. So we've got to give this a bit of a trim and stuff around. So we've got some tacks on this frame. This frame's working a treat. That's like marrying up perfectly. Wouldn't even be able to pick it. And we ended up having to do a relief cut here to get, this is actually like double thickness just here, to get that to marry up into, can I get you in there? There. So to get that to marry up into here nice, we actually had to give that a relief cut. Now as you can see, we're sitting on the outside here. So what we're going to do is we'll push this in. As you can see, we're right on the verge of having too much material, but we'll push this in, we'll put a tack on, and then we will go around and push it. We'll run the grinder through again and then line them up. But I would say we will need another relief cut, probably here somewhere, I would say. It's very close. It's very, very, very close, but I think we may need 1 or 2 relief cuts, say about yay long. So by that I mean we do a little cut, we push this metal in so it butts up nice. This little piece here then overlaps that piece, and we cut it, and we cut a little, basically like that. We cut a little triangle out. So I'll show you the technique of doing that. So here's our other side. So like I said, this is all just sort of sitting, rough clamped. We're working on the back first, then we're going to come and our next step will be to anchor these, start working on these front corners, and then we'll deal with the center. So I'm very happy with the look of it. I think I've got the perfect, I think I've done it perfect. The amount, so we did 5 inches is what we took out, 5 inches, and I almost think that's perfect. Now when we did our cut, as you can see here, we got a little gap. That's what we had on the other side. They had this little gap, so we actually had to take a little couple of mil out of that cut to bring it down. Okay, But if we have a little look around, I think that looks insane. I think we've got it absolutely perfect. 5 inches is what we did, and I think I'm pretty happy. I think it looks really good. So anyway, that'll be enough for today. Tomorrow we'll come out, we'll keep going. We should be able to get very close to having this all sort of tacked up, all reliefed, all pushed in, tacked up nice, the front, and probably even we'll attempt to go through the roof too. We should be able to get it close tomorrow to having it all tacked, not welded out but tacked. So anyway, woo, I'm happy. Oh yeah, that's like the happy dance. The happy dance is there because I think that looks wicked. Wicked's the word. That is going to look so tough on that. Now, this is what I was getting at before, is you can cut too much out of these and they look, to me, they look stupid, okay? There's a few other people, I'm not going to say who they are, but they're doing builds and they've chopped them and done all this stupid stuff, and the car, truck, whatever you want, it looks stupid. It is not in proportion. That's the word I was looking for, proportion. It is not in proportion. This looks in proportion, still looks aggressive. You know what I mean? You can chop not enough out where it's hardly noticeable. It doesn't have that aggressive look. You can cut too much out where it looks aggressive but looks stupid because it just looks out of proportion, or you can get it correct and get it perfect and have it in proportion and aggressive, and that's what we have pulled off. So anyway, I'll see yous in the morning and let's get this chop done. is where we are at. So, we've had a few issues, should you say. Anyway, right, we'll start at the good part. So we've got the back working a treat. We've got that down. We've got a few little tacks at the top here, and then this has got a few tacks. It just needs to have the grinder blade thrown in. It's like a little tiny lip in there, like little tiniest little bit. Like here, it's actually butted up beautiful, but it just overlaps like by about 1 mil, which is what's that in an inch? Like a 32, 132 or 1/16 at the most. Same around the bend here. Okay, so we've got that not bad. Puckering wise, there's a little bit of a pucker here, but that is actually a dent. So we'll get this welded and then we'll get in there and dolly that up. See if we can get rid of that. Same over that side. As you can see, our dent, we knocked a bit of that out, but we haven't got onto it with the dolly. There's a couple of other little dents. There's one here, we'll dolly. There's one there. There's one on the other side. So we'll go around the other side first. So yeah, we worked quite well around there. Now when it came to here, what I did is I put a slit in it, a relief cut, and I actually bent. This is actually thicker. As you can see, it's doubled up in there. Can you see that? Yeah. So we, as you remember, our cut went boom, boom, boom. All right. So what we did is we put a relief cut in, bent this out, and run this nicely along our edge. We've got a couple of tacks on it, and now what we'll do is we'll put a little pie cut in there. So we'll basically just put a piece on, and then we'll probably run the grinder down and fill that up. And as you can see there, the little lip. So we just need to run the grinder through there. So on the other side, the same thing happened. Probably not quite as big a pie cut on this side, but the same thing happened here. We've got a little bit of a gap here, but we'll fill that up. Might even put a piece on the inside, a reinforcing piece. So they worked very well, the back did. Okay, then we ran out of gas, and it's Saturday and you can't get gas, so I have to wait till Monday. So we came to the front. The front was giving us grief. Now the front looks a bit messy, but by the time I'm all finished it will be fine. The front, the rooftop was slightly wider than the base, yes. And if you remember our big, huge transition, as you can see, fat, and it goes into this skinny. So we had big issues here with our difference in material. So what I ended up doing was we gutted it up. It wasn't too bad. And I had a little look. I knew there's a bit of lead. As you can see, there's a bit of lead in here, yeah? Bit of lead. You can see all this. It hasn't rusted. That's because it's lead wiped. I thought it was a little wipe, so off I went with a grinder, and I don't know if you can tell how deep that is, but that is a good 1/4 of an inch of lead was into this, 1/4 of an inch the whole way around, right, which is that much thicker lead in this. So by the time we got down to there, our metal, once we got rid of all the lead, our bit of metal was thinner than this, way thinner than that, is all that pillar was made out of. So I wasn't overly impressed with that. So what I did is I sleeved it. So I made some pieces up and welded them on the inside of the base one. Then of course the top piece is smaller. So I then had to bend everything in, and we sleeved this over the top a little bit. And we've welded the top to our little sleeve. And so we're just going to fill all of this up with weld. Okay, the other side's a bit neater. Well, we haven't finished it, we'll fill it all up with weld, we'll grind it all down, we'll have it all nice. And then we will probably throw, the plan I'm thinking is, I'll probably throw a little bit of fiberglass, kitty litter, whatever you call it, kitty fiber stuff, the fiberglass bog over the top. And then a little bit of a skim coat. We'll heat this up, and we'll try to address where this lead's cracked. And we'll put a little bit of filler in it, and then we will patina paint it and make it look like that. Okay, so we've got a little piece, as you can see, we've got a little piece in there. So what ended up happening with, when I sleeved it, it ended up spacing it up 1/4 of an inch. So So we'll put a little piece in the window frame there, and yes, this will all get filled. As you can see, this side's a bit more, but I don't want to completely weld this out because I'm running the gasless wire at the moment until I go get a bottle of gas on Monday. So anyway, we've got the front tacked up very hard, like half welded, you could say. It ain't going anywhere. The back's all tacked. Same, I do not want to do any more on here until we get the gas. You know, I'd rather weld all this with gas. So that's where we're at in there. And then we've got this. We've put a little, I put a little reinforcement bar in there to line it up. And we've got the roof. So now this back piece slightly bowed up a bit more than this, but I think we can get that. Just as you can see, they're not even here. When that one comes down and that one comes up, they should level out a bit better. So yes, we've got to run a 1.5 to 2 inch strip through there, and we can cut a little bit of the piece that we took out of here up. It won't fit properly, but we can cut a little bit up, and basically we're going to have to make this frame up out of a few pieces. So that's where we're at, and then we'll look at the doors at the very end. So at the moment, it needs a bit more tweaking. I'm a little bit wider on this side than that side, but our gaps aren't bad. So yeah, we'll go around and give it a bit more of a tweak and stuff tomorrow, on Monday, and today's Saturday, if you're wondering. And yeah, so there's our back window. I think that looks an absolute treat. And like I said, the back's all working. It's all working. It's all tacked on. The roof's on. We've done a 5-inch chop. I think it looks insane. And we're getting there. So I think we're going okay. My first ever chop. I think we're going okay. Now this was probably one of the more difficult roof chops. Now, if you want me to explain, if we go and look at this car, now this would be a very difficult roof chop, but if you see this pillar here, okay, it's the same thickness the whole way, yes? So we chop 5 inches out of that. Well, that will marry up to that perfectly. Same with this piece, that would marry up perfectly. Do you see what I'm saying? Across here, it's all the same. The front pillars, they're all the same. Let's go have a look so you can see what I'm getting on about. Our front pillar, all right, if we chop there and there, that would marry up almost perfect, okay? So as much as this looks like a very easy chop because it's just a little truck, when we look at our pillars, if we look from this side, our pillars curved, not just the curve, not just had the radius curve, the actual thickness of the pillar changed. Okay, it went from fat to skinny, and then it started to fatten up, but nowhere on this was it the same. So as you can see around here, I don't know if you can see how rounded that is. Yes, and down here how sharp that is. You should be able to tell all that. And from the front, the same. It goes in, and then as it comes up, it flattens out. So this was, there's no matter where you chopped, even if you chopped 2 inches out of this, it didn't marry up anywhere. Okay, this has been a bit of a bear, and then the same happens on pretty much everything. The piece that we've taken out of there, you could normally use in here. Well, that there's fat and that there's skinny, so you can't. So we are going to have a dead set nightmare doing this, but that's just how it is. So yes, as much as everyone thinks this is probably an easy chop, it's actually been quite a difficult one. And as you can see, the roof is actually wider than the pillars. They actually come in. So, you know, as much as we didn't have to shrink much out the back, these front pillars have been an absolute pain. But anyway, we've succeeded through it. And like I've said, we could finish all this and lead wipe it, but I'm not a lead wiping master or anything, so I'm just going to put a bit of filler in it, which is basically, that's all that lead was back in the day. It was there. Bog. Okay, so I'm going to put a bit of fiberglass and a bit of filler over the top, and just get this transition nice. So like, seriously, we could nearly get it. I could nearly just get it with the grinder, but I think we'll put a little bit in just to get a better blend. As you can see that angle, you can see that divot. So I want to get rid of that. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now, we're getting pretty long in the tooth, so I think we are going to end this on a cliffhanger of that's where we're at. We are not going to finish this in one episode. It is way too much work. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Something I've been wanting to do for a while. Hope you enjoyed it. And we will re-adjourn next week and we'll get some more. Reaper.